After the nice opening festivities on Monday night, the A's were disappointed with the results, losing the first two games of this 2016 season, much like the way 2015 unfolded. Poor defense, bullpen struggles, and all ended in frustrating one-run losses. But last night, the A's finally got their win. The ace, Sonny Gray, mowed down the tough Chicago bats, and Mark Canha provided the difference as he blasted a solo home run. Today, the Green and Gold try to get a split in the series. A's, White Sox, next. First day game of the season, and what a beautiful day it is here at the Oakland Coliseum. It's the fourth and final game of the series. Pitching matchup, the veteran Matt Latos for the White Sox and Kendall Graveman for the A's. So White Sox A's coming up on Comcast Sportsnet California. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Oakland A's Baseball. Along with Ray Fosse, I'm Glenn Kuiper. Last year, Kendall Graveman made 21 starts, and Ray, he showed flashes of how good he can be, and I think the A's just need him to become a little bit more consistent, and hopefully that stretch starts today.
You know, this offseason, he worked on a changeup to improve that, a cut fastball used during spring training. The key for him, though, ground ball pitcher. He wants his sinker to be working. If that works, take all those numbers from last year, he's going to be a much improved pitcher for 2016. He's been a little bit under the weather, but he's okay for today. Beautiful day for him to be pitching. But if he gets the ground balls, he's going to be an outstanding pitcher.
Now, offensively, the A's have scored 9 runs so far in the first 3 games of the series. Jed Lowrie has driven in 5 of them. And we've always said this about Jed, whether he's in an A's uniform or in the opposition's uniform, he always gives you a good at-bat. We've seen that.
Great at-bats, especially with runners in scoring position. What he has done already in this young season, he's driven in 5, the A's 9 runs. He's done a tremendous job in situations where you want to get runs batted in. He had a big sac fly last night. You're seeing some hits in the first 2 games where he came through with the hits to drive in runs. That's the type of hitter he is, whether he's a left-handed hitter, right-handed hitter, he's going to come up with the big hits. And again, we saw them, we have seen them, and hopefully now we're going to see a lot more in the A's uniform.
And a half a day off for Jed Lowrie today. He will be the designated hitter and bat second in that A's lineup. So Graveman and Latos, a youngster against a veteran. We'll have lineups in first pitch when we return to the Coliseum. It is indeed a gorgeous day for baseball. Stick around. A's White Sox coming up.
Baseball on CSN California is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Taste the all-new Double Jack Burger today, only at Jack in the Box. And by Toyota, the full-line automaker with the longest-lasting vehicles in America. Toyota, let's go places.
Well, the A's are hoping Stephen Vogt is a good luck charm today. He is in the lineup.
I just wish he'd stayed there instead of take the lineup out, just visit with the umpires and wait for Kendall Graveman to come out.
So we'll see if Stephen Vogt is indeed a good luck charm today as we get set for the fourth and final game of the series and the end of this quick homestand for the Athletics. Game time weather for today presented by the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. Get to the beach. The admission-free boardwalk is now open during spring break. Nice day, 70 degrees, and there's a decent little breeze. And it, as we said in the open, the first day game of this season, and I think day games always have held a special place here at the Coliseum. The A's play a lot of day games and generally get pretty nice weather, and that is the case today. White Sox lineup starts with Adam Eaton. Eaton will play center field today. Melky Cabrera is the designated hitter. Jose Abreu at first. Todd Frazier at third. Avisail Garcia's in right. J.B. Shuck gets his first start. He's in left. Brett Laurie's at second. Deanna Navarro is the catcher. And Tyler Saladino is the shortstop.
And Kendall Graveman from the South, Sweet Home Alabama. That's his walkout music. They're playing it right now as Kendall Graveman makes his warm-up tosses as he makes his first start of this 2016 campaign. 6-game winner last year for the A's. Worked on his changeup and his cutter, good sinker fastball, and he'd like to have that working for him this afternoon, get the infield a lot of extra work. And I think as you get ready to give the infield and the defense with Chris Coghlan getting his first start, that's good to see also in the fourth game of the season. He's at second.
Behind Graveman, the lineup for the A's has Coco Crispin left, Billy Burns in center, Josh Reddick in right, Valencia, Simeon, Coghlan gets a start at second base, Yonder Alonso is at first with Stephen Vogt doing the catching. So Adam Eaton steps in the box, and we are set for baseball. Sonny Gray got the win last night. He was very good, as usual. We come to expect that from Sonny, but he helped the A's get their first win. White Sox won on Monday night and again on Tuesday night. A's won last night. So the A's will try to get a split in this series. Eaton, Cabrera, and Abreu here in the first inning. Eaton has had a huge series. Would you say that's accurate?
I'd say with everything that he can do, he's, of course, in center field today. He's been playing right field with Austin Jackson, new signee, playing in center. But Adam Eaton puts the ball in play, and he's been finding the holes. Got an infield hit last night. Ball to deep short. Ball that was reviewed and upheld with him reaching first base.
That one's hit hard. Coghlan who scoops it up. So Adam Eaton, who coming into this game was 7 for 11 in the series, but he is retired there for out number 1 of the ball game. Umpires, Gabe Morales is behind home plate. The crew chief is Tom Hallion, along with Phil Cuzzi and Dan Bellino.
And it's always great when you're a single ball pitcher to get a ground ball out with your first out, and that's what he did with the ball going to the new second baseman, Chris Coghlan. I think this has to be great for Coghlan to actually get a start versus just pinch hitting.
So here's Melky Cabrera, who takes a bit outside. And the infield should get plenty of work today with Graveman, and that one's lined into the glove of Alonso, and that's out number 2. Chris Coghlan, his first start at second base, Ray. Last year, 11 starts at second base for the Cubs, so he has not played there a lot. But I think Bob Melvin is going to use him there a fair amount this year. I'm not saying on a regular basis, but.
Well, Ben Zobrist, who was with the A's last year, I remember talking to him. He said he could play a lot of different positions, but what he'd like to do is stay at one in a game. But especially if it's the infield, stay in the infield, go to the outfield, stay in the outfield. But I think Chris Coghlan, because of his versatility, Bob Melvin can use him all over. And the way Bob Melvin likes to pinch hit late in the ball game, if that's the case, then Coghlan can be the guy that can move around different positions.
Before last year, in those 11 starts at second base, Coghlan had started at second base just once in his career. So still not a position he has played a lot of, but he's a good athlete.
I think Eric Sogard gave him socks, because Sogi came out with the striped socks. Sonny Gray wears them. They're going to have a giveaway. But Chris Coughlin, perfect.
He knows how to do it.
Pants held up high, rolled up high, and got the stirrups sewing.
2-2 to Jose Abreu. Abreu in this series is 4 for 12. Does not have an RBI. He's got 3 singles and a double.
That's one of those pitches that looks so good. Ends up out of the strike zone, but a chase slider that thrown perfectly by Kendall Graveman.
Abreu has struck out 5 times in the series. But he is indeed one of the most dangerous hitters in the American League. Full count with Todd Frazier in the on-deck circle. Right off the end of the bat, 88 miles an hour. Looks like a cut fastball. Yep. That's decent velocity at 88, 89.
You will see Kendall Graveman today use the cut fastball, of course, against the righties, but also backdoor against the lefties. This one, see the rotation, just cutting enough off the end of the bat. So Abreu likes to wait and wait a long time, and that's why he hits so well to the opposite field.
Pitch, a breaking ball is bounced foul. Exmo brought to you by Cache Creek Casino Resort. Jose Abreu just take his batting glove off, stick it in his pocket. You don't see that very often. He had 2 on when this at bat started, and now it's in his back pocket.
Too much bottom hand.
Jam shot, Simeon charges, and it kicks up right at the last minute and rolls into shallow left center field. Abreu's going to try for 2, and he's going to make it. Boy, it just rolled into no man's land, and took a little time for the A's to get to it. And Abreu ends up at second base. It looked like, Ray, that ball maybe kicked up right at the last second.
Broke his bat, and then Simeon with the charge. He knew he had to charge to throw him out, and just trickled into the outfield. Give Jose Abreu a lot of credit because he does not run that well, and it did pop up right at the last instant. And right there is when it came up as he went down. He kept his glove down, could not bring it up quickly enough, and just enough deflection off of his glove slowed it down.
So here's Frazier, and the pitch is a little bit in. So that's a tough error, and I say that only because there are times when a ball is missed by an infielder, and it's because of a bad hop, and that ball took a bad hop.
And I think if Marcus
not an excuse.
had not had to charge the ball the way he did, stay back, then he could adjust. But once he was charging and the ball took the bad hop, then he could not adjust quickly enough to stop it.
Yeah, that's a good call. It's hard to adjust when you're charging, scooping it with one hand. (2-0) to Frazier. Rolled to the right side. Alonso has it. He'll take it himself. Side retired. So a base runner on the air for the White Sox. Nothing else. Big Matt Latos set to take the mound. No score after half an inning. Bottom of the first, let's look at the rest of the lineup. So Burns in the leadoff spot, then Lowry will DH, Reddick, Valencia, Vogt, Coghlan, Alonso, Simeon, and Coco Crisp is in the lineup, and he will bat ninth today.
He's a veteran, seems like he's been around forever, but he's only 28. That is the big man, Matt Latos, pitching now for the Chicago White Sox. His first year with this ball club, made the rotation, 5th starter. Matt Latos likes to use the four-seam fastball about 50% of the time, so he will use the fastball even though he has other pitches that he can finish off hitters, especially a split-finger fastball.
Shuck, Eaton, and Garcia in the outfield for Chicago. Frazier, Saladino, Lowry, and Abreu. Dion Navarro doing the catching.
And I have an idea that before this day is over, maybe Brett Lawrie and Matt Latos can compare arms.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
A lot of artistic work. Yeah. So Robin Ventura, I'd asked him about Brett Lawrie, and he said, I looked at him, I said, I gotta check this out, just see what is all this stuff. But they like Brett Lawrie's energy, and they'd like to see Matt Latos be their pitcher. There is a former A's third baseman, second baseman, and 5th-year manager of the White Sox, Robin Ventura.
Big curve from Latos. Well, Latos is 28 years old, and it's his 7th year in the big leagues. He had some very good years with the Padres and the Cincinnati Reds, but the last 2 years have not been good. In the air, foul territory.
Pep, one of the most important things is for a first baseman, if he can, to take the ball himself. And Alonso has scored a great first baseman. Last night, Sonny Gray very quick to first base. Same for Kendall Graveman. He said, I got it. And what he's doing basically is eliminating the possibility of flipping the ball, having the pitcher have to catch the ball, touch first base. So anytime a first baseman can take the bag himself, do it. And Alonso does it perfectly.
Don't flip it if you don't have to.
Exactly. And you see too many guys that, you know, if you don't have the experience, and I think what we're seeing Alonso, the way he can pick it and play first base, he's basically saying, why should I flip it to you? You can stop. And we see too many things where a guy can't find the bag trying to catch the ball and he drop it, and you're just eliminating that. So Alonso's doing it perfectly.
Count stays 1-2. Burns is 3 for 8 to start this season. But talking about Latos, from 2010 to 2013, Ray, he was 51-35.
Yeah. Little extra pine tar. Fighting off some pretty good pitches. Yeah, Latos is one of the guys that just every time he took them out, he did something special.
He was good.
Yeah, and those years that you're talking about.
The last two, 9 and 15, and he's been on the disabled list each year.
And teams are always looking for pitching, and they like to see somebody that's had experience and success in the past, and hoping they can do it. And Don Cooper, one of the best pitching coaches in baseball. We've got two of the best on the field today, and the A's Kurt Young, Don Cooper. And, you know, Coop can see somebody with another team, and he said, they're going to let him go. We're going to get him. He's going to be good. And,
that's right.
You know, it works out great. And they're hopeful of that being the case with Matt Latos.
Tap slowly. Saladino has it quickly to first in time. A very close play. Tyler Saladino, the shortstop today.
Well, Billy Burns just slaps and runs, and he is down the line quickly. Saladino playing it short this afternoon and had to unload quickly, and boy, that is something. Last night, Jimmy Rollins, who's getting the afternoon off, went up the middle on Billy Burns, and he tried to field and throw at the same time, just could not do it. And that's what speed does. This time, handled very nicely, though, by Saladino.
One away for Lowry, the DH today. Finishing up on Latos, the White Sox signed him on the 9th of February. Well, that's about a week before spring training. A 1-year, $3 million deal with the hopes that he can turn it around. Guy who's had success and is still just 28 years old. Not a bad guy to take a chance on.
Yeah.
So Lowry is retired. He's also the only right-hander in the White Sox rotation. We've seen 3 lefties, and John Danks is the other starter, he'll pitch tomorrow.
Well, another right-hander, and the name Carson Fulmer has come up. And he was just drafted last year, and I just looking him up because talk to everybody on the White Sox, they say he's going to be here. And just drafted last year, similar to Matt Chapman of the Athletics. But
he was the #1 pick, right?
#1 pick, yes. 8th overall. But, you know, it's one of those cases where he starts the season and they have this tick, tick, tick clock that they –
service time.
Yeah, it's the old service time clock. But he's probably going to be here sooner than later. But in the meantime, right now, as you said, 4 lefties. You did not see John Danks, either opening starter tomorrow in Chicago.
White Sox also recently signed Miguel Gonzalez. Remember the right-handed starter for the Baltimore Orioles who had some decent years for the Orioles and was let go toward the end of spring training by Baltimore. And there were some teams that were interested in Miguel Gonzalez, and he signed with the White Sox. So at some point he may come into the picture, but he had some good years with Baltimore.
Well, and that's probably the type of pitcher that Don Cooper said.
That's right.
Get it, because you know, as long as Cooper's been around, I'm sure the White Sox front office go to him and say, what do you think? And he's seen him enough with the Orioles to say, yeah, we can make something out of it.
Reddick goes the other way. Throw is wide and Reddick safe. It's Todd Frazier with the shift on. Frazier playing at the shortstop spot. He backhanded it, but I would not say it was a terribly difficult play, but Reddick runs pretty well.
Except that he's playing a shortstop position instead of third, and you know, everything is different a little bit when it comes to that. But he had the backhand, and the fact that he had to hurry because Reddick does run well. He had to hurry his throw and airborne it a little bit, and air mailed it to the point that Abreu tried to catch and tag but lost the ball. But, you know, we've talked so often last year how few times Reddick has been striking out. There's a perfect example. You have the shift, and he makes contact, put the ball in play, good things can happen.
Cleanup hitter Valencia steps in. Strike down around the knees. Valencia 1 for 10 with an RBI in the season. Outfield shifted a little bit toward left center and fairly shallow in the outfield for a power hitter like Valencia. Drives this one to center, but room for Eaton. Side retired. So an error, a base runner left on, and we're scoreless after 1.
Keys to the game, Kendall Graveman. How about give me some ground balls? How about 3 in the first inning? How about actually 4? 1 was an error, but 3 outs. And get to Latos as early as possible. Don't let him get settled in. Well, he settled in pretty nicely in the bottom of the first, so far the keys aren't, from Kendall Graveman's standpoint, they're good, but the A's trying to get to Latos, who knows how to pitch, and whether or not he's had success, injured or not, if he is healthy, he can mix and match his pitches, and he did it in the first inning.
Aviseo Garcia swings and misses. Garcia 1 for 11 to start the season. 13 home runs and 59 RBIs last year. He's playing right field today. Hits this one to center, and it's deep. Burns going back, and Burns near the wall leaps up and makes the catch. It was a little bit of an adventure for Billy.
I think we had some swirling winds because he went after the ball like the winds were swirling a little bit, but Aviseo Garcia, I think the A's will be happy if he can get out of town before he starts to get hot, which he is capable, and this ball carried very well, center field. Problem, the warning track, you're usually 3 steps to the wall. Billy Burns got there, and he didn't have a chance to figure out how many steps he had to the wall, and that's why he jumped prematurely in front of the wall, but braced himself, but made the catch regardless, and that's all that matters.
One away, here's J.B. Shuck. Shuck getting the start in left field. Austin Jackson and Jimmy Rollins, a couple of their regulars not in the starting lineup. Alex Avila not in there, but Avila and Navarro probably split time about right down the middle.
Exactly. The one thing Robin Ventura is ecstatic about his team this year is having a lot of veterans, and Jimmy Rollins, one of them. Alex Avila coming over from the Tigers, well-established catcher, but it's the old thing about Jimmy Rollins speaks. People are going to listen, and he's been around long enough to know how to play the game and the right way, and to offer a lot of good information, especially some of the young players, like the one who's playing at short today.
Which brings up an interesting point. Of course, a lot of was made about the Adam LaRoche situation with his son, and he decided to retire. You never know exactly what really happened. I think the people who do know what happened are the players.
Yeah.
But you wonder, how is that going to affect your team? And maybe it isn't going to have a big effect on a team that has some more veterans on it.
Right.
Because once the situation is resolved, LaRoche is not here. He decided to retire. You kind of move on, and I think the White Sox have put that past them, and I think they did right away.
Well, they did, and people should understand, in the world of guaranteed contracts, if you walk away and you retire, you don't get paid.
You don't get it.
I mean, if you get released, and James Loney, I mean, here's the guy has a year left at Tampa Bay, and he's out there floating around, see what happens to him. But
he will get paid.
Oh, yeah. He will get paid because he was released. But if you retire, as Adam LaRoche did, he walks away from, well, I don't want to say it.
Well, and we're not saying that the White Sox players don't wish Adam LaRoche was on their team, because they probably do.
He's a great guy.
But the point is what I think could have been a distraction, because it's a bit of a strange circumstance, because you're talking about somebody's child, basically.
Right, exactly.
But it was handled, and it seems that the White Sox have certainly moved past it. Shuck is retired on the ground ball, 2 outs.
Well, we have talked about the Striped Sox. Then you can look like Sonny Gray, even maybe Chris Coghlan, anybody, with your very own Striped Sox, presented by Black Bear Diner at the A's first Little League Day on Sunday, April the 17th. 15,000 fans receive a pair of striped socks made famous by A's ace Sonny Gray. Get more information and purchase tickets today at athletics.com/promotions or by calling 877-493-BALL. I'd like to have a Glenn Kuiper sock giveaway, because my partner can come out with some socks that put those striped socks to shame.
What
do you got on today?
Argyle. But you know what? I was disappointed because I went to look for my Raleigh Fingers mustache sock.
Oh, yeah? Couldn't find it?
Find them. Which concerns me. Because the days where you feel like getting a little crazy, you go with the Raleigh mustache socks.
Yeah, that's true.
And I can't find them.
But if you do that, then you have to pitch 4 innings out of the bullpen as a closer.
That's not happening. Kendall Graveman looked sharp early on. Graveman's last start exhibition-wise was over in San Francisco on the 1st of April. He pitched 5 innings. He was the start before that, though, in Arizona on the 27th of April, where kind of happened at the exact time you wanted it to happen. His last start in Arizona, he kind of put it all together, and he was terrific. And if you're the manager, the pitching coach, that's when you want to see a guy pitch well. His last start in Arizona.
Absolutely. They pitched a game at the Bay Bridge Series, San Francisco.
Check swing, and he went. So that's a strikeout, and that's the first strikeout for Kendall Graveman, as he has a 3-up, 3-down inning. Bottom of the second coming up. Stephen Vogt to lead it off. No score. A's Baseball on CSN California is brought to you by AAA. What does your insurance do when it's not doing insurance? It should do more. Go to AAA.com for more details. Lake Merritt on a gorgeous day in Northern California. Very hot yesterday, but it has cooled off nicely. But hey, spend the morning at the office with your jacket, tie on, and then sneak out to the ballpark.
Business person special, nothing better at the Coliseum.
No score, bottom of the second inning. As I read that promo about AAA, it popped into my head, Ray, that before the game, Zach Bash from the Media Relations Department for the A's gave us the minor league rosters for the Athletics.
Yep.
So we know where everybody's at. And spent quite a bit of time in spring training seeing some of the young players that the A's are very excited about. Sean Manaea is going to be in AAA Nashville, which was expected. Chad Pinder, who played quite a bit in spring training, he's going to be in Nashville. Joey Wendell, who's the second baseman that was acquired from Brandon Moss, he's going to go back to AAA. Vogt drives one to left. Shuck is there. So one away. Here's our Ford right choice. It has to do with Chris Coghlan, who's striding to the plate right now. He's 30 years old. Plays all over the diamond. He was the first-round pick of the Marlins in 2006. 2009, he was the National League Rookie of the Year. Hurt his knee attempting to pie a teammate in 2010. He probably doesn't want anybody to know that.
Now everybody does, though.
Yeah, but he's bounced around a little bit. But at 30 years old, he still has a chance to put together a pretty good career because he can hit.
Yes, he can hit.
Pretty good power.
His versatility. I don't know that there's a team in baseball who would not love to have somebody who has the versatility that Coghlan does. Zobrist in Chicago and the late Tony Phillips, who kind of started that role.
Well, he'll be a free agent at the end of this year. So an important year for him in his career. Yonder Alonso to follow. Getting back to those minor league rosters, Matt Olson, the big power hitting first baseman, is going to start in AAA. And two guys that we all spent a lot of time talking about, Franklin Barreto and Matt Chapman, are both starting at AA Midland, where that's kind of where everybody thought they would start.
Barreto's just 20 years old,
Yeah.
and Chapman, the #1 draft choice in 2014, and talked about Carson Fulmer, 15 drafted last year, and it was Chapman who just, I mean, he went all the way through the end of the Babe Ruth series. He had a monster home run here Saturday that we were televising, got a chance to see it go way up in left field.
So it'll be a fun left side of the infield in Midland.
That's right.
With maybe the 2A's best prospects. Probably are.
And the great thing about it, and I know Keith Lippman, Director of Player Development, he's instrumental in positioning the players, and you know, they don't want to rush anybody, which is a good idea. You have these young prospects. The worst thing, try to rush them and be overmatched a little bit too much.
High curveball, and Coughlin strikes out. First strikeout for Latos. Well, that's why having Barreto go to AA at the age of 20, that tells you what the A's think about him.
Exactly.
He's advanced at that age.
Latos has a 12-6 curveball, and he just dropped it on 3-2 to Chris Coughlin. I mean, that's between Navarro's catcher and himself and making that call. And going back last night to Ryan Matson throwing a 3-2 changeup to Alex Avila to close out the game.
And it was a good one.
It was a great one right down the middle.
So good hitting for Matt Latos. So he's looking for their first hit, and so are the White Sox. Third inning coming up.
Do another Metallica Gnome with sound, presented by Ross. 15,000 fans at the Saturday, April the 30th game will receive this one-of-a-kind giveaway that actually plays the A's closers walkout song. Get your tickets today at athletics.com/tickets or by calling 877-493-BALL.
It's a biggie.
So the Gnomes, I mean, if they're playing music, do they light up? Because I guess the Sonny Gray Gnome you could put on your driveway and you could have driveway lights.
Yeah.
You know, your backyard for.
You know what? I got bad news about my Sonny Gray Gnome, which is very popular in my house. His head fell off. The light still works, but the head fell off, which I'm not sure what to do with that.
I would get some glue.
The light is on, the head is off. That's not good. Nice running catch by Coco Crisp. Between Coco and Burns, it'd be tough to get a ball to fall in left center field.
Yeah, Tom Bodette always says we'll leave the light on for you, so maybe that's what you're doing in your backyard.
Sonny's light is working great in my backyard. It's just, I don't know. We'll fix it.
Yeah, I'm sure some super glue take care of it.
So.
Yeah.
Just put his head right back up.
Or get another one. Well, speaking of Sonny Gray, pitched a great game last night, his first of the season, 7 solid innings, 1 run, 3 hits, the 13 ground ball outs we mentioned. Kendall Graveman follows him with his sinker ball, but he also did something Kendall Graveman did. He got married on Sonny Gray's birthday, November the 7th, this past winter. And so Sonny, born on November 7th, Kendall Graveman said he and Victoria got married, and he said, I'll never forget it because I always remember Sonny's birthday. I said, I think you better remember it for something other than that.
Be careful. Be careful. So base hit by Tyler Saladino.
Last night, Sonny, of course, food poisoning. Not pitch on Monday nor Tuesday, pitched last night, and he had everything working. He actually got better as the game progressed. Josh Beckley caught him, did a great job blocking all those hard sinkers and curveballs in the dirt, but Sonny was great. The ground balls and infield played spectacularly behind him. See, he's trying to manage now. He's sitting next to the skipper. Everybody wants to manage.
Top of the order, and Adam Eaton. Eaton grounded out to second to lead off the game. Big hole on the right side, and Eaton handles the bat extremely well. And he's the kind of guy, he'll go out there and try to hook one into right field.
That was the backdoor cut fastball, and I say backdoor, left-handed hitter, throw to the outside part of the plate. And Kendall Graveman actually against the Giants in the exhibition. Babe Bridgely tried it in Arizona. It was not successful. So trying to just nail the outside corner with it.
Coghlan, Simeon, not quite in time at first. So fielder's choice, 2 outs.
That is the play that you want to make sure you get the 1 out with Eaton speed. It's going to be hard to double him up. Unless the ball is another couple of feet closer to the bag where Coghlan can step on the bag and throw to first. But make sure you get 1. If you get 2, that's a bonus. But you don't want to make an errant throw and a quick throw to allow Eaton to get into scoring position.
First pitch to Melky Cabrera, drops in on the outside corner for a strike. Cabrera hit a line drive to Alonso at first. His first at that. Cabrera now 1 for 12 in the series. Second year of that 3-year contract that Melky Cabrera signed last offseason, a 3-year, $42 million deal. He was a fairly highly sought after free agent after couple good years with the Blue Jays.
We saw him with Toronto, but evidently had a back issue that prohibited him from moving around in the outfield very well, but got well and signed the big contract with the White Sox. Stephen Vogt looking in the dugout, and they'd be surprised with 2 outs that Adam Eaton with his speed wouldn't take off and try to get in the scoring position. And I say that because Melky Cabrera finds a way to put the bat on the ball. I mean, he's a hard hitter to strike out. As witnessed last night, he just kept fouling off pitches before singling.
Well, there has not been a stolen base in this series by either team. And that one's going to bounce into right field for a hit. First and second, 2 outs for the big fellow, Jose Abreu.
Maybe Adam Eaton wanted to keep that hole open for Melky Cabrera, as he stayed at first, which made it a bigger hole between first and second that Cabrera found. Hit the ball on the ground, but not close enough for a fielder to handle it. And if we go back to several years ago when Trevor Cahill in 5 months won 19 games, signed a big contract with the A's long term, but he's a sinker ball pitcher, and it was a matter of close enough to a fielder to catch the ball versus just far enough away to be base hits. And after that, it seemed like those ground balls that were outs turned into hits, even though they were hit on the ground. So that's the good news, bad news about a ground ball pitcher. You get to hit the ball on the ground, you hope it's close enough to be handled by one of your infielders.
And you will have games where your stuff is great, but the ball just eludes the infielders. One 1-0 to Jose Abreu, who reached on an error in the first inning. A pitch to hit there, out in front. Abreu 4 for 13 in the series. Still looking for his first RBI of the season after knocking in over 100 his first 2 seasons.
As I mentioned about Avisail Garcia, same with Abreu. He is good enough that you just worry about him in situations. He just seems to keep coming up with runners in scoring position, but so far the A's have pitched him very well.
Eaton's very fast. Cabrera maybe slightly above average speed-wise. Eaton's been living on the bases in this series. Good pitch there, and it's 2-2. Pitch selection for Kendall Graveman. Now, this is last year. So look at the fastball and look at the cutter rate. So 25% of the time he threw that cut fastball last year. Do you see that number going up this year?
Yeah, and actually 80% between a 2- and 4-seam fastball and a cut fastball, he can live with that. And that's why he finally shook and got the cut fastball to throw to Abreu on 2-1, and he swung and missed. But no, I agree, because he's using it back door. He can use it front door to the right-handers.
Broken bat. Simeon, the first side, retired. Couple of White Sox stranded. They get a couple of hits. Bottom of the third coming up. It'll be Simeon, Crisp, and Burns. No score. Jim Kozimor hosts the Bay Area's best sports talk show. It's presented by Comcast Business Class. It's Sports Talk Live, and some of his guests today, John Shea, Monty Poole. He'll have a whole list of people to talk to, and to say that they have a lot to talk about would be an understatement. Today, the 7th of April, it may be the biggest sports day in CSN history. Are we exaggerating?
No.
Maybe a little bit, but maybe not. Comcast Sportsnet is going to cover today anything that's going on. A's game right now. Giants home opener. The Warriors and the Spurs tonight at Oracle. The Sharks and the Winnipeg Jets tonight at the Shark Tank. And don't forget about the Sacramento Kings. They are home against Portland. All tonight, all at home. Played by Frazier, and all will be on CSN. How about that? That's an awesome day of sports.
I'm glad this is a day game.
Yeah, we don't want to get squeezed out.
Yeah.
So a busy, busy day in Bay Area sports, and it's a good day.
And that makes it nice for fans who love all sports because you're dealing with 3 different sports with the teams that you just mentioned. And the time of the year for the NBA and the NHL where you're getting the postseason time and you see guys growing these crazy beards. For Joe, you going to grow yours for hockey playoffs?
Yeah, the NHL hockey beard.
Yeah.
Big game tonight right next door. The Warriors and the Spurs.
How many games total wins between the two?
Yeah,
I mean, on one floor?
They are clearly the 2 best teams in the NBA. The Warriors have 4 games left. They have to win all 4 to set the record for most wins in the regular season. So they will play the Spurs twice. So that will be a fun night next door.
Was it Jerry Reinsdorf, the chairman, of course, owning the White Sox and the Bulls? Was he voted into a Hall of Fame? Probably basketball.
Somebody's Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
NBA
basketball.
Hall of
Is
Fame.
that right, Mike? Thank you. Because there was a picture last night that the White Sox had on and showed Mr. Reinsdorf with his 6th world champion in the NBA and the one Commissioner's Trophy right in front of him.
There it is. That's a great shot.
Yeah.
So about the time all those A's fans' cars are filing out, Warriors fans will start filing in.
And I hope there's a lane to come in. Not to go out. We came back.
I hope there's a lane for us to get to the airport. How about that?
We came back from San Francisco Friday after the Warriors had played, kind of around the same time. And the bussy came in off of 66, and he's part of the sea. Because he just took that big bus, and people coming out, he said one lane's supposed to be open. He made his lane. And it was a thing of beauty. That was a tough game. I guess the Warriors lost that one in overtime, the Friday game, because we were hoping in San Francisco that game would be over before.
You needed to have everything fit time-wise.
And it didn't.
Shallow pop, Shuck in left field. He's got the sunglasses on, and he makes the catch. So 2 away here in the bottom of the 3rd. A's still looking for their first hit. They've had 1 base runner. That was Reddick, who reached on an error in the 1st inning. So Latos with 1 strikeout so far, but he's been good early.
There's been some talk we saw with the Giants how Bruce Bochy's having the pitcher hit 8th and Angel Pagan 9th. There's been some discussion. I think the A's have it today, even with a DH though. But you have Coco hitting 9th, Billy hitting. So you have 2 leadoff hitters, 9 and 1. A lot of speed.
Toward right, Garcia spins around. Now he stops, settles in, makes the catch, and that's another 3 up, 3 down inning for Latos. He's retired 7 in a row. Scoreless after 3. Coors Light. Interesting note, highest percentage of strikeouts using the cutter. This is last year. Kendall Graveman first. So half of his strikeouts last year came on that cut fastball.
That's great. So yes, I'd say the 25% will probably go up because he's refining it, perfecting it, and using it more probably. And
broken bat, Valencia.
That's a great pitch at two-seam. The fastball inside, breaking the bat. He's broken 2 bats from Abreu and now 1 of Frazier. Watch his sinker go inside, and Frazier starts. The ball sinking, gets him on the trademark and the handle, and snaps the bat. Handled easily. Another ground ball handled easily by Valencia this time.
And who knows, Ray? Maybe Todd Frazier. Maybe he's looking outside for that cutter.
That's true.
And then Kendall Graveman has the ability with that sinker to run the ball in on right-handed hitters. So you're sort of guessing as a hitter, is he going to go cutter away or is he going to run one in on my hands? If you guess wrong, that's what's going to happen. Todd Frazier just broke his back.
And I think so many pitchers, if they have any kind of movement from a hitter standpoint, it's horrible because you think you're squaring it up and next thing you know, it's off the barrel of the bat. You break it or you're just blooping it somewhere and not getting the hit and driving it.
Well, it's interesting. I remember talking to Chili Davis about this and a couple other guys who played a long time are now hitting coaches. They said at the big league level, it's very difficult to cover inside and outside. Right. It's almost impossible. You have to guess. You have to pick a side and stay with that through an at bat. Valencia kicks up into the air, and Garcia is going to be aboard. A hard hit ball, but a play that probably should have been made by Valencia.
Well, you expect to get ground balls if Kendall Graveman's pitching, and kind of backed up a little bit and taking it to the side right there, backed up and figured it could handle it, and the ball hit him in the heel of the glove, and that's not good when that happens, and then could not recover, even though Garcia does not run that fast.
So a 1-out base runner, and here's J.B. Shuck. Keep an eye on that big hole on the right side again. And in these situations, there's just nothing you can do about that hole on the right side. It's there. Second baseman has to be closer to second base. First baseman has to hold the runner on.
And that's the difference in the number of outs. 1 out, so I mean double play in order, so you have to get close. And good left-handed hitters see that hole and they open up their front side and top hand the ball. And something you don't want to do from the right side, roll over on a pitch to the left side of ground ball, but left-handed, you take it.
It is an error on Valencia, so 2 errors today by the Athletics. They've made 4 now on the season.
2 on Monday and 2 today. So, I mean, that's very good baseball defensive-wise on Tuesday and Wednesday last night. But again, the A's have a number of starting pitchers in general who are ground ball pitchers. And you just want to get to the point that you're able to handle those. And once that happens, it's going to be a thing of beauty.
Shuck grounded out to Coghlan in the second inning. Graveman would take that same ball right now and try to turn 2. Shuck runs well. There's a strike, 2-1, 86 miles an hour. So took a little off, eased it in there. Pitch number 55 coming up for Kendall Graveman, but first a quick throw at first. Foul. Garcia, the runner at first. He's a big guy. Yeah. He's got decent speed, but he's not going to steal a lot of bases.
Well, the White Sox with Garcia, who had been playing right field. Matter of fact, he had robbed a few players of home runs, although he helped Billy Butler hit a 3-run home run last year. The ball hit in his glove and over the fence, but he can DH now because Abreu wants to play first. Eaton moves over to right, Austin Jackson in center.
Reached for, poked foul. So some moving parts for the White Sox.
And speaking of LaRoche, another National League player coming to the American League trying to DH, just did not work out. Adam Dunn, who the A's had in 14, the end of his career, but didn't really work out for him, although emergency appendectomy and coming back too quickly probably didn't help him. But DHing, you have to really know how to do it to be successful.
Broken bat, slowly hit. Coghlan will get the out at first. So 2 outs. White Sox have a runner in scoring position. And that'll bring up Brett Lawrie. See if Brett Laurie's changed at all from last year. No, he hasn't. He's fun. He's a good guy.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
And this one's popped up. Valencia will come over, and it will be onto the roof.
That's right. You cannot give up on those because the right-hander on the left side, those balls will come back. And he stopped a little bit, and then realized and hit the top of the dugout.
And from where we sit, just a specific angle, you can see the ball coming back.
Oh, yeah, it comes, yeah.
Yep. Looks like it's going to be 4 or 5 rows back into the seats, and then it starts to come back. And that time it bounced right on top of the A's dugout. Good pitch there, quick 0-2.
That's why pitchers love the Coliseum, because of the foul territory. And there's the only stadium where there's 2 sports played here, and that's why the foul territory. Football and baseball, something Clay Wood does not want to hear about until August. So sorry, Clay. But the
Clay's
field
in a good mood right now.
Yeah, field looks great. It always does this time of the year in 4 months, but the foul territory, boy, pitchers just absolutely love it.
See, we mess with Clay. About July 15th, when he walks in the lunchroom, you just throw something out there football related. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. Big strikeout. Lawrie K's for the second time. So bottom of the 4th coming up. It'll be Lowry, Reddick, and Valencia. No score, A's and White Sox. This week only, T-Mobile customers can get a free season-long subscription to MLB.tv Premium. Go to T-Mobile.com/MLB to sign up now and catch every moment on America's fastest-growing LTE network. Bottom of the fourth inning. No score between the A's and the White Sox. First pitch to Jed Lowry is low. No hits yet for the A's. Latos with just 36 pitches so far, so he's been good and economical first third of this game.
Oh, we have commented on how he's able to keep the ball down in the first two to Jed Lowry out of the strike zone, and he's kind of a different type of delivery, as big as he is, yet he's right over the top, but his downward plane keeps the ball down, which is good for him, but the A's have to be very patient and not swing the pitch that's out of the strike zone.
Shallow left, that's out number one.
And now he takes a little bit off the pitch on 2-0, where you're looking for a good fastball and pulls the string, but then look where his release point, right over the top. And he's a big target.
And he's interesting, Ray, because most of the time a guy will either go through his delivery with his glove and his hand around his belt and keep it there, or he'll raise his arm and hand up over his head. He sort of does both.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch him, he kind of brings it down and then brings it back up. Down and then up.
A lot of moving parts, but he has perfected it, been around long enough to know what he has to do and can do.
Just missed outside. So 3-0 to Reddick.
See if he has the green light. Last night Danny Valencia did on a 3-0 fastball from Carlos Rodon. I think Josh wants to get in the count where he can shoot a ball to left field. Another shift again to the right side. That's a shortstop. Frazier, actually third baseman Frazier, playing it short.
Right to the second baseman. So Latos comes back and gets the out. 2 away for Valencia. Interesting note on Latos, he was involved in a huge trade, big names. Remember, he was with the Padres. And then in the offseason after 2011, he was traded to Cincinnati in exchange for Yonder Alonso, Brad Boxberger, Edison Volquez, and catcher Yasmani Grandal. That's a pretty good haul if you're the San Diego Padres. The problem for the Padres is none of those guys are there anymore. Grandal is now with the Dodgers. Alonso here, Boxberger, he's on the DL, I believe. And Edison Volquez has turned into a very good pitcher, and he's with the world champion Royals. So it's a pretty good haul. And let's not forget that that was in December of 2011, so that's a little while ago.
It's amazing how many times you hear of a trade where you have a veteran and a team loads up on a bunch of prospects who become major league and very good major league players.
Flip to short. Saladino throws out Valencia, and that is a 3-up, 3-down inning for Matt Latos. He's rolling along. He's retired 10 in a row. Insider Podcast is live on CSNCalifornia.com, and each week as our A's Insider Joe Stiglitz talks baseball with players, coaches, special guests, and more. A's Inside Podcast with Joe Stiglitz on CSNCalifornia.com, also available on iTunes. Scoreless game, top of the 5th inning. Navarro, Saladino, and Eaton, 8, 9, and 1. In the White Sox lineup against Kendall Graveman, who has struck out 2. He has not walked anybody. He's allowed 2 hits. That one in first strike.
He's broken 4 bats and has 8 ground ball outs.
And that's a good thing.
That's right. Because those broken bats, well, except for the one Abreu, had the ground ball that eluded the glove of Marcus Semien.
A little bit outside. Astros and the Yankees just got started at Yankee Stadium. 2nd inning, no score. That's the rubber game of that 3-game series. Fiers and Eovaldi pitching matchup. Well, it wasn't a broken bat, but it sounded like it was off the end of the bat. Navarro is retired.
In other words, not a crisply sounding swing, and those are great if you're a pitcher. Hitters do not like it, but Kendall Graveman's moving the ball around, keeping the ball down, and I'll tell you what, for Kendall to be under the weather seriously, Nick Paparista, the head trainer, said, check the end of the bat. Right there,
yep.
Just off the end of the bat, and that's why you had that sound. But it's kind of like a 24-hour bug, and Kendall Graveman walking around, and Sonny, of course, more of a food poisoning, but he has recovered nicely. Beautiful day, so it's not overly hot. Kind of a coolish afternoon in a sense for a pitcher. It's perfect.
Tyler Saladino single with 1 out in the 3rd inning.
83 degrees at first pitch last night.
Awesome.
83 degrees. Unbelievable.
The Astros will be in Milwaukee over the weekend, so after they finish up that game in New York, they'll fly to the wonderful city of Milwaukee. So they get a interleague matchup early on.
Dave Fleming was in for the network last night. Of course, the Giants had opened in Milwaukee. He says, you know, it's nice to have a roof.
Ooh, boy, they needed it.
Yeah.
My brother said, I don't think we would have played any of the 3 games in Milwaukee if there wasn't a roof. 2 of them for sure, no go.
Well, I thought the same thing.
Snowing sideways.
Well, I woke up and it was still, and they had, you know, something, as I mentioned, something about those tailgate parties in the brats.
Yeah, it wasn't happening a whole lot.
Yeah, if it's blowing sideways, that's close the roof.
Good fastball, 91 miles an hour, and that is strikeout number 3 for Kendall Graveman.
Talking about dealing, and Kendall Graveman is dealing. 3 very close games, 3 one-run games. This afternoon, no scoring at all, very little hitting, and great pitching. But Kendall Graveman, very consistent with his delivery, the cutter, the sinker. Really, he can throw the 2 and 4 seam and a cutter and be fine at this level.
Like Eaton faked a bunt, but really probably taken all the way. He has grounded out, reached on a fielder's choice. Good sinker there at 86 miles an hour.
Well, Kendall Graveman shook to the curveball, a rare curveball thrown first pitch to Eaton, who faked the bunt and then back. So if nothing else, it's a matter of saying, I've got another pitch too. And how about a nice catch?
That's a nice play.
Oh, Beverage in the left hand, A's alternate jersey on, and catching in the right hand. That is impressive.
That was nice.
Little girl said, what about me?
She's hacked off. Slap down the left field line toward the bullpen. Nice play.
Scotty. God, he's up for it. He's looking forward to 3 days off after really grinding it out for 4 games.
Yeah, he's worked hard.
Yeah.
But I think his off-season workout program has helped his strength.
But I asked him about that. He said it was more beverages than actually working out.
Liquid workout?
That increased his size.
Swing and a miss, and a good inning for Kendall Graveman. Strikes out a pair. He's got 4 in the game. Bottom of the 5th, pitcher's duel at the Coliseum. No score.
Your family to the ballpark on a Friday night with the Friday Family Pack. You get 4 Plaza level tickets, 4 Coliseum hot dogs, 4 medium sodas, and 4 bags of peanuts. And it's just $60 at every Friday home game. Buy now at athletics.com/family pack, subject to availability. Okay, just recently they came out with this survey about Major League parks and great deals and ticket prices. That I just read is the best deal in baseball. Friday Family Pack. And you get all of that for $60. And that is the best that I've heard of any park around baseball. So we expect to see sellouts on Friday night.
Well,
everybody taking advantage of that.
Next Friday night, the Kansas City Royals. So that's a fun team to watch.
The world champion Royals. It'll be Jackie Robinson Day on the 15th, and a lot of giveaways over the weekend.
Oh, way out in front. You see the Royals schedule this week? I read about it, and I had to go look at their schedule to realize it was real. The Royals played on Sunday night, had Monday off. They played Tuesday. All right, so that's fine, right? But then they had Wednesday off, and they have today off. So they have played twice in the first 5 games of the season.
Yeah, that's world champions.
And they played the Mets Sunday and Tuesday, so that just happened to be their interleague, one of their interleague opponents. And it looks like it's that opponent that you play 2 games at home and 2 games on the road with. It just happens to be, it's done the first week of the season, but to have Wednesday and Thursday, that's...
Typically Midwest and the East, and it happened in New York with Houston. They were rained out or weathered out in their opener, so you have an off day the second day in the event of your opener being rained out or bad weather. And so that's what happened in New York. I know I've experienced it in Cleveland, but to have, I've never heard. Of course, we saw something Monday night I'd never seen, and I don't know if it ever happened. First pitch of the season, hit a batter into Adam Eaton. So I Eaton, I was asking him, I said, have you ever done that? He said, I think that's a record. I said, I've never seen first pitch of the 2016 season and Eaton's hit. And not only that, Vogt got hit twice. Got him on the inner thigh of both legs. with the ricochet off of the.
And we should just not be surprised by that.
Of course, that's a given.
Coghlan struck out, only strikeout for Latos. That one on the outside corner, 1-1 count. The Rangers and the Angels will start a 4-game series tonight down in Anaheim. Well, it's a little strange for the Angels. They played the Cubs in an interleague series, and that's obviously that 2-2 interleague series that the Angels have. The Cubs are their team, but they had Wednesday off. They had yesterday off.
And didn't they have an exhibition game against the Cubs on Sunday? And
Yeah,
then
I think you're right.
opened with them on Monday and Tuesday.
So that's very strange to have a Wednesday off, but
The Angels only scored 1 run in 2 games against the Cubs. And the Padres still haven't scored.
Padres have not. No, they're first team in Major League Baseball history to get shut out 3 straight games to start a season. You think they're not jonesing to get to Coors Field on Friday, which they will play a weekend series in Colorado? Dodgers did it to them in San Diego. Three-two pitch is rolled, just foul.
Thing about Matt Latos, and we saw with a 3-2 curveball to Coghlan his first at bat. Now he's facing him again, another 3-2 count. I think a lot of times you can say as a hitter, I'm going to get a fastball, but Latos is not going to give you a fastball. If he does, he's going to throw a batting practice fastball, throw something a little bit off speed instead of allowing the hitter to look for the heater.
And a breaking ball, and it's lofted down the left field line. Foul territory, and Shuck missed it. And he had to lose it in the sun because it looked like he flinched right at the last second.
And you know, you watch him, he didn't see it initially off the bat because he was slow to go get the ball, almost as if he thought the ball was in the seats. And then to flinch right at the last instant, I don't know if we'll see it here, but slow getting there, and then plenty of room, ball slicing away from him, and yeah, he lost it. When you see an out, watch his head. Watch it goes forward, and then his head says, I'm out of here. Put the glove up in case it finds my glove, but it didn't.
He got a decent glove on it for really kind of looking away at the last minute.
Did I hear no play? No play. It's a good call.
Another 3-2. This one's a fastball. Line base hit. Shuck is over to cut it off, and big turn by Coghlan. So a 1-out single, and that is the first hit for the A's.
And the first hit for Coghlan and his new team, so all good there to get the 1-out base hit, and especially following what should have been the second out. If Chuck hadn't lost the ball in the sun, but Chris Coghlan waiting, had some tough pitches called on him in this series with his new team, and called out. That pitch down in the lower part of the strike zone, and maybe not even a strike. But Coghlan just slapped it over the head of the third baseman down on the corner, and Chuck, of course, playing in that direction. Only a single was allowed.
So second base runner for the A's, and here's Yonder Alonso. Foul tip. Alonso grounded out to first in the second inning. So he is 1 for 9 to start the season. A couple of RBIs, got a big hit earlier in this series, knocked in a pair of runs.
That looked great on Tuesday night when he singled off Nate Jones to drive in the 2 runs, his first hit.
Good swing there. But behind in the count 0-2.
And I think we say this every year, but coming out of spring training, pitching is usually better. You go, it's going to some colder weather, although the A's are experiencing 4 games of beautiful weather here. But hitters will catch up as pitchers start to tire a little bit as the season progresses. You'll see the numbers that you would normally be seeing out of hitters throughout the season.
That one low. Marcana started last night in right field. More versatility shown by the A's with Canna being able to play in right. Reached for it on an off-speed pitch. And Eaton takes care of it for out number 2.
Well, you got a ground ball pitcher in Kendall Graveman. And for Matt Latos, the way he is changing speeds, getting a lot of hitters out on the front foot and dragging the bat through the zone, and that's why, counting the 2 fly balls in this inning, he has 8 fly ball outs, while Kendall has as many ground ball outs.
So 2 outs for Semien. Semien grounded to third in his first at bat. Semien so far this year now 3 for 9. He's got 3 singles. Coco would be next if Marcus can get aboard. Latos 64 pitches. So his pitch count is in decent shape for his first start of the year. Big gap at right center.
Seeing a few shifts used by the White Sox, but this is as straight up as you'll see, outfield, infield, and I think a lot of that has to do with the pitching of Latos, that he changes speed so much. It's tough to go on the basis of what hitters have done previously against certain pitchers. But this is the type of pitcher that hitters don't like, just because you cannot sit on a pitch and expect to get it. When you do, you can't do much with it.
The 2-0 breaking ball, but it stays high. Good take by Marcus Semien.
Well, even on the 2-0, might have been 2-1. Looks like a pretty good pitch.
3-0 pitch eased in there first strike. So 3-1, Coghlan, who's got decent speed and a decent lead. And it's outside, so Semien is aboard. So this is the first time the A's have had a runner in scoring position against Latos. And a good clutch hitter in Coco Crisp coming up. Latos goes for a little walk behind the mound.
Don Cooper has to be very pleased with his starters, because Sale walked 1, Quintana walked 0, Rodon last night walked 1. That's the first walk for Latos. So the starters not given the free passes.
Quick look, and the pitch to Coco. Curveball is low. Well, remember in the pregame portion of our show, when we talked to the guys back in the studio, we talked about how sometimes defense is overlooked and how much it plays into the outcome of a game. He's trying to take advantage of a mistake in left field, but they cannot do it, and the defense shines there by the White Sox. And that was Brett Lawrie, who took a base hit and a run away from the A's. So we are through 5 and no score. Hey, we got in-depth sports news for the Bay Area fan. Know it all with Sportsnet Central. It's coming up at 6 and 10:30, and it's on our sister station, Comcast Sportsnet Bay Area. So it is indeed a wild sports day in the Bay Area, and the guys from Sportsnet Central will have it all covered. Lots of highlights from this game. 6 and 10:30. Cabrera, Abreu, and Frazier here in the top of the 6th. No score between the White Sox and the A's. Kendall Graveman and Matt Latos hooked up in a good one. Three 3-0 now to Melky Cabrera, who has lined out and singled.
You want pressure? How about pitching a game in which it's scoreless and you're pitching the 6th inning and you knowing every pitch is critical. Both pitchers pitching exceptionally well.
And a 4-pitch walk to open up the 6th. No, yes. Cabrera thought maybe Gabe Morales said strike. Double checked. So here's Jose Abreu. Both guys have been very good today. That was just the first walk issued by Graveman. So 5 innings for Latos, 5+ for Graveman.
And bullpen activity for the A's just beginning. You know, Kendall pushed the 3-0 fastball. That back up on top with that one, which is very good. But a couple of pitches kept running away from Cabrera, but then the last one pushed it, got under it a little bit too much, and it's ball 4. Fernando is the pitcher on Monday night. A good job.
And it's low again, 1-1. Abreu has reached on an air and grounded to short.
White Sox are going home for just a short 3-game weekend series, maybe to also fill up the bat rack because Abreu's broken 2 today. I'm sure they'll take care of him.
Driven to right. Reddick back, turns around, gone.
Just like that.
So Jose Abreu goes the other way up on top of the out-of-town scoreboard. And the White Sox hit their 3rd home run in this series, and they lead 2-0.
When you saw Reddick turn around, he was hopeful of the ball coming off the out-of-town scoreboard, but Abreu, his batting average is good. No home runs, no runs batted in until this pitch. And he is so strong and will go opposite field so quickly, and it jumped. Kind of hopeful of getting a ground ball. Instead, it went airborne to the opposite field.
So Abreu, his first home run of the season.
30+ and 100+ 2 consecutive years. And
36 2 years ago, 30 last year in home runs. So
in the company, only Albert Pujols has ever done it the first 2 years of the major league career. 30 and 100. Pujols did it for 10. Abreu might do it his whole career.
Valencia has it near the bag, throws in time. It's a powerful swing, folks.
Now, the fact he uses the whole field, I think that's what makes him such a great hitter. And, you know, that was gone so quickly.
Bob Melvin's coming out, and he's going to make a change. So 5 1/3 innings for Graveman. He was good until Abreu got him for the 2-run homer. Rodriguez coming in when it's time for change. Think Speedy Oil Change and Tune-Up. It's your oil change, tune-up, and smog experts.
Copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Oakland Athletics and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Athletics Investment Group, LLC.
So Kendall Graveman out after 5 1/3. He leaves trailing 2-0. Just 3 hits, but the 2-run homer does the damage. And the big right-hander Fernando Rodriguez comes in out of the A's bullpen for his second appearance. He pitched on opening night.
Yeah, like the rest of the relievers, did a great job. Unfortunately, after the 3rd inning, the A's could not do anything against the White Sox. Chris Sale in their bullpen.
The bullpen's been good in this series for the A's. Just 1 run allowed in 12 1/3 innings. So good start for the area that the A's really made the most changes in. 2-1 now to Garcia, who has hit a fly ball to center field, and he has reached on an error by Valencia. Talked in the break, Ray. Let's not forget Graveman's been a little under the weather, and he finishes with 84 pitches. The flu bug can take it out of you a little bit, so maybe not quite as strong as he may be in his next start.
I just wondered with seeing Fernando Rodriguez start to get loose in the 5th inning or the 6th inning as Kendall went out, and maybe just realizing exactly as you said that a little weakened from the flu bug. 84 pitches, great. He just the one he threw to Abreu straightened out, didn't have a sink on it, so he broke 2 of his bats to get ground balls to shortstop, and then a fastball straight, and big man hit it to right field.
Here's Shuck. Shuck in his first start this year has grounded out twice, both times to the second baseman Chris Coughlin. Got jammed there, chased a fastball that was right in under the hands, which is always a tough pitch to get to. So Rodriguez ahead in the count, 0-2. Everybody in the A's bullpen has pitched in this series, so you like to get your guys in and get them their work. Play, gonna miss. So Rodriguez comes in and he retires the 2 batters he faced, but some damage done by the White Sox as Jose Abreu hits a 2-run homer, his first home run of the year. Here's our true story for today. It's brought to you by McDonald's. June 2nd of 2004. Mark Kotsay, a walk-off home run versus these White Sox. It was Kotsay's first home run as a member of the Athletics. And the A's won that game by a final score of 3-2. A memorable moment for Mark Kotsay, his first year with the Athletics, 2004.
And his first year as a bench coach for the A's this year. And just think, he was a hitting coach for the Padres last year.
Yeah, he's glad he's not there.
Yeah, I'd say he's happy to be right back here in the green and gold. And we're happy to have him, because he's a good hard worker, and want some of the real good guys and good baseball people to stay in the game, and he's one of them.
Burns, Lowry, Reddick, so it's the top of the order for the A's against Latos. Corner infielders in with Burns at the plate. Then Kerr off the glove of Latos, and what a play by Lowry, and they got him. Make that Laurie, excuse me, but a heck of a play, and a pretty nice play by the first baseman as well. Laurie, he had to change directions after the ball hit the glove of Latos. That's a heck of a play.
Well, great play, and he made a great play on Coglin's ball to dive and prevent a run from scoring. And he does this on Billy Burns, and bare hands it and loses his balance and gets the job done. And that's some energy, folks, and he is playing extremely well against his former team.
So one away. Now he takes a big curve first time. Jose Abreu moves around pretty well at first base too, and he's a big guy. He's probably 230, 240 pounds. That curve stays high. Ace just one hit. Coglin's single in the 5th, and that came after Shuck, the left fielder, lost a foul ball in the sun.
We were talking earlier about Adam LaRoche. He's an outstanding defensive first baseman, but he didn't get a chance to play because Abreu wanted to play. And trying to DH just did not work out. So all those factors, and decided to hang him up this year.
Headed to the seats. That's the lefty Zach Duke. Get it loose. Latos had 76 pitches, so the pitch count is not real high.
Don Cooper said that the plus for the White Sox on Monday night was the fact that Chris Sale was able to go 7 innings, and we talked about that, and how some of the first pitch outs that helped him stay in the game.
Well, as Ray said, the White Sox will head home for their home opener tomorrow against the Cleveland Indians. But it's not an easy month of April for the White Sox. They have 16 road games and 10 home games, and only one off day. That's the 12th of April. So that is not an easy month. A lot of road games, very few off days. So they'll be tested early. That one, left field, toward the line, and just foul.
So Steve Stone, who works with Hawk Harrelson, dressed nicely for getaway day, and I said, what's that heavy jacket? He said, we're going back to 36-degree weather in Chicago for the weekend. So they've enjoyed this week in the Bay Area. They came in Saturday, worked out Sunday, played the 4 games. Stoney on the left, Ken Harrelson in the red, the Hawk. Strong Hawk.
Those two gentlemen who've seen a lot of baseball in their day. Long-time players, long-time announcers.
And we have mentioned, and I know I mentioned that Hawk Harrelson, the first to wear batting gloves, and he was expanding on the story yesterday, and he said playing for Kansas City, and he played 27 holes of golf and was not supposed to be in the lineup. They decided to pitch Whitey Ford. And so he's in the lineup. He had a blister on his hand. Told the bat boy, go get that golf glove of my pants, because he came straight from the golf course.
Huh.
And so he hit. He said, all the Yankees, it's this flaming red golf glove, and all the Yankees were screaming at him, was calling him various things. He hits a home run off of Whitey Ford. He said it went forever. And so the next time he came up wearing the same batting glove, He said the same thing, hit another home run. He said the next day, every Yankee had a flaming red golf glove.
Sure.
They figured if that's going to help the Hawk. But that was the beginning of the golf glove.
Hit well to right center. And it's run down by Avisail Garcia. Just kind of hung up there. And the daytime weather here at the Coliseum, where the ball travels a little better, could not help that one.
Tab, I think this is all a matter of Lehto's, just his way of pitching. You think you've gotten it, and then all of a sudden it doesn't go anywhere. But a lot of times a pitcher can provide the power that helps a hitter if he puts a good swing on it. But with a pitcher who changes speeds, it makes it difficult, and Jed got pretty much all of it, just didn't pull it to right field, more to right center, and stayed in the park.
A little high to Reddick. Reddick has reached on an error, and he has grounded to second. Off-speed pitch, and it catches the outside corner. Fastball's average speed today for Lehtos at 88. Splitter and the curve. It's interesting. The 1-0 pitch was on the outside corner, called a strike. It was a close pitch, but then you see that so often. The next pitch is on the outside corner, same spot, even though it was a different pitch, but the hitter swings at it.
Well, the figure is going to call it, might as well swing, and that's what a called strike can do to a hitter, force him to swing a bat that he normally would not.
Curve, not close. So a full count.
You know, with a shift by the White Sox, they have Frazier, the third baseman, at short, Saladino, the shortstop, behind second. So you have really two players out of position. And that's why Longoria probably the first to go over to second base, leaving the shortstop in his position and not changing.
Reddick strikes out on the breaking ball, and it is a 3-up, 3-down inning for Lehtos. We're moving to the 7th. White Sox 2, A's nothing.
Sports Service delivers everything you have come to expect and more. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. Includes a free subscription to At-Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. Probably had that on Night Watching the Angels, right?
Yep.
What?
That's right. Holland and Santiago, the pitching matchup down in Anaheim tonight. Some Sox fans enjoying their team leading 2-0. Top of the 7th inning. Pitch to Lori. High fastball, foul straight back. And the Angels, the guy who's hoping to be their #2 starter, Andrew Heaney, very talented young left-hander. Well, he's on the disabled list, a flexor muscle strain. So that's not good news for the Angels. Little pop-up. Simeon's going to grab it, especially with Jared Weaver. Not sure what's going on there.
Neck issues, yeah.
And Wilson on the disabled list. And the Angels lost the first 2 games of their season to the Chicago Cubs.
Number 27,
Deoner Navarro steps in. A's will see the Mariners this weekend. Mariners are off today. They took 2 out of 3 down in Arlington, so they had a good opening series.
I think the A's are hopeful that Robinson Cano, don't you know, cools off a little bit on this off day. 4 home runs. We talked about the kid's story of Colorado. That's his debut, but for the veteran Robinson Cano, a healthy Cano is at least starting this season, proving that if he's healthy, he's good.
He's got 4 hits. All homers. So we'll see the Mariners for the first time. They have made a lot of changes. They still have the core group of Cruz and Seager and Cano and Hernandez. I mean, that's a Iwakuma. So those guys aren't going anywhere. But outside of that group, they have made a whole bunch of changes.
Got a new catcher, Ineta, from the Angels, now with the Mariners.
So the big names are the same, but we'll see a lot of new Mariners.
Now, one thing everybody talked about the A's, including people with the A's, that the offense was going to be good, just going to score runs, but that has not been the case in the series. And Kendall Graveman pitched his heart out for 5 innings, hopeful for some runs. Support got 0. And now this afternoon, it just 1 shot off of Brayu's bat. Now more activity for the Athletics in the bullpen. Zep.
Zepchinski warming up.
Zep. Mark. Mark.
Big guy.
Z.
Good swing there by Navarro. He got a fastball at 94 miles an hour.
Hawk would call him big guy because Hawk calls everybody big guy.
That's great.
Don't have to know any name. Hey, big guy, how you doing?
Navarro has hit a fly ball to left field, and he is grounded to first. Down the left field line, not an easy play, and Valencia cannot quite get to it. Reached out right at the last moment. But if you think about the trouble J.B. Shuck had, the left fielder, and now you're running with your back to home plate, and you're really, I mean, the sun can be an issue, even though you're not facing the sun.
And Marcus Semien, the shortstop, was playing a little bit closer to second, so it's a longer run for him. Typically, it's the shortstop's ball in the normal positioning of the shortstop that has a better angle to get to the ball, but Semien had too far to run, and Valencia tried the over-the-shoulder catch.
Again, foul left side. Good battle here. Saladino, another right-handed or a right-handed hitter, is waiting in the on-deck circle. Zach Duke is throwing out in the bullpen. And he got it. Stayed away from the fastball, and Navarro, after battling, ends up striking out.
Well, Fernando Rodriguez has an assortment of pitches, and when in doubt, he can rear back and throw the fastball, but here he takes a little bit off and keeps the pitch down. And the ball, rotation of the ball, great Exmo on that one. An even better swing and miss.
So 2 away, and up steps Saladino. Rodriguez has retired all 4 hitters that he has faced. So he's done his job so far out of the bullpen. Saladino with the single in the 3rd. and a strikeout in the 5th, giving Jimmy Rollins the afternoon off. White Sox in an interesting situation at shortstop. Their best prospect is a shortstop by the name of Tim Anderson, and he's not far from the big leagues. So it could be that Jimmy Rollins is just holding down the fort this year for a young man by the name of Tim Anderson. Should be a very high prospect.
Well, if Jimmy's holding down the fort, that's a pretty good veteran to have. To play 3 out of 4 games, take an afternoon after a night game off, and big home run on Tuesday night. Robin Ventura is a great player himself, knows the travel schedule and the day games after night games, how tough it is, and gives his veteran the afternoon off.
Foul back. Well, Alexi Ramirez was the White Sox shortstop for 7 years, and then there was an option on Ramirez, and the White Sox did not pick it up. Ramirez ended up signing with the San Diego Padres.
We saw him last year in Chicago. He's a great pitcher. He's got great
He did.
stuff.
He threw well.
Yeah, he had 2 position players in 1 game, which is never seen before.
Valencia has it. And a good inning by Rodriguez. 7th inning stretch from the Coliseum. White Sox 2, A's nothing.
Is brought to you by Toyota, the full-line automaker with the longest-lasting vehicles in America. Toyota, let's go places. And by Xfinity. X1 from Xfinity will change the way you experience TV.
7th inning stretch. Lots of sunshine today here at the Coliseum. White Sox with a 2-0 lead. So the A's have 3 more shots to get something going. They'll do it against the bullpen when it's time for change. Think Speedy Oil Change and Auto Service, your oil change, tune-up, and smog experts. It's the lefty Zach Duke. Zach Duke pitched in game 1 of this series. Zach Duke pitched in game 2 of the series. So he's been a busy man early.
And maybe Robin Ventura says he couldn't get Reddick out, the only batter he faced, so he's going to start him with a right-hander.
And that right-hander will be Valencia, then Vogt, then Coghlan.
Certain guys called specialist, and Duke against lefties, but Reddick did reach base, got a base hit off of him. That was in the Tuesday game.
Valencia has hit a fly ball to center field. He has grounded to short. A little bit of a slow start. He's 1 for 12. Watch that one drop low. Very good start for Matt Latos. He ends up throwing 88 pitches in 6 innings. Just the 1 hit Chris Coughlin's line single to left field in the 5th inning. So the White Sox cannot complain about their starting pitching in the series. Each guy pitched well. Carlos Rodon, the young left-hander, he was really good last night. He just happened to hook up against Sonny Gray. Pitch to hit for Valencia. No, it's inside. A's will take it. Leadoff walk. Drives a manager crazy when the relief pitcher walks somebody, especially when it's the first guy you face. Does happen occasionally. Here's Stephen Vogt. Vogt has flied out to left field twice. He's 1 for 7.
Duke walked Lowry. Duke gave up a hit to Reddick, and Duke now walks Valencia. So, I mean,
it's a swing and a miss, not a foul ball, and Valencia moves to second. So it looked like a foul ball, but it was not.
Well, that's just a miss off the edge of the catcher's mitt. Try to backhand it. Did tomorrow. Maybe he wanted to pitch outside. It was more inside.
So the A's get their second runner in scoring position. Vogt takes outside. Coughlin to follow here in the 7th inning. A good start to the inning for the Athletics. Vogt holds up. So they
It's a lot of body, and you know, when the bat stays close to the shoulder, sometimes an umpire will call it with the bat somewhat going through the strike zone.
Well, they gave that a wild pitch. Right?
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't seem right.
It doesn't, no. I was a little surprised myself.
Little flare, and that'll drop for a hit. Valencia to third. He'll stop there. Now the ball trickles, and Valencia thought about trying to score. Duke hustles over to cover home plate, and the A's have first and third, nobody out.
Well, another lefty, so it really sets up well for Robin Ventura with his lefty. The walk to Valencia didn't help, and now lefty, and then another lefty. So we'll see if some pinch hitters, but you know, with 2 outs, you're going to score easily, but when you're down 2, you don't want to take a chance to run into a double play. So Valencia held up, and once the ball did come in and off the glove of Abreu, it's amazing what a score will do as far as aggressiveness. You did not want to run into outs, and A's very alertly just staying put. Not many opportunities today, and here's a big one for the A's.
Coughlin is in for a strike. Strikeout and a single for Chris Coughlin. Abreu is going to come home. No, it's a foul ball. So it hit his foot as Coughlin is going to walk it off. Thought the ball came out a little strange.
Straight down, right instep, right foot, and maybe the big toe.
Yep. So down in the count 0-2 and a throbbing foot. Not fun. And he got him swinging. Looked like Duke dropped down a little bit more that time, and figures why not with the count 0-2, and it's tough at bat for Coughlin.
Well, the right-hander is loosening up for the pinch hitter, but you're right, and that's a pitch that towards the outside part of the plate. Coghlan, who shot a ball to left field. Now, Robin Ventura is going to bring in his right-hander with the announcement of Mark Canha for Alonso. But you get first and third, and you're down. You got to score. You got to score the run. The infield's playing back for double play and a strikeout, which is what the White Sox wanted.
So 2-0, A's threatening here in the bottom of the 7th. Their bullpen. Mark Canha is going to pinch hit. This is what he did last night.
Just inside out swing against Rodon, and up on the out of town scoreboard just above, up on the ledge, and signaling a home run. But Mark Canha, very strong opposite field home runs, and the majority of his home runs last year against right-handers, and he was supposed to be against lefties. That one last night was. Facing a righty now, Matt Albers, who pitched last night. I'll make it on Tuesday night. But a good off-speed pitch. Right-handers away from them. Left-handers, it brings the ball inside and back to the middle of the plate. Another veteran out of the White Sox bullpen.
So Albers against Canha. First and third, 1 out. Slider first strike. Canha started at first base on Monday night. He started in right field last night. This is his first pinch hitting appearance this year.
Over the course of the year, the A's will probably lead the league in pinch hit.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
And we saw it pretty much last year. And
hit hard with 5.
but you have to be ready if you're on the A's, whether you start the game, as the old saying goes, I might not be in the first 9, but I'll be in there eventually, and that's kind of what happens with the A's.
Zipchinski and Axford now out in the A's bullpen. Big spot in the game. Don't take it again.
Thank you.
A pretty good pitch by Matt Albers.
Two-seamer came back. If anything, must have been called low because it looked like it had the plate.
Valencia at third, Vogt and the runner at first. Murray out, and Murray has it. So Canha cannot get him home, and that's frustrating.
That is very frustrating. First and third, nobody out. Still first and third. And you know, the other night when the A's came close and 1-run loss, Billy Butler with a leadoff double. Did not move past second. Tried the inside out, but could not drive this one like he did last night.
And Ray, it was not a long at bat with 3-4 pitches, but you wonder how
Your
important
attention, please.
a first pitch strike with a breaking ball
That's right.
is in an at bat.
Yeah.
I think it's just huge. And
Yeah.
he just flipped the little slider in there, got a called strike. Right now, you're a pitcher, you can go anywhere.
Yeah. And he did. 2-7 to the outside. Andrew Lambeau, who was added to the roster when Felix Lebrun went on the disabled list. And they have made the announcement. And Don Cooper is going to discuss Andrew Lambeau, but they made the announcement. Eric Surkamp is going to make the start
Yeah.
in Seattle, so they'll need to find a spot for him on the roster. So for Andrew Lambeau, we shall see. You know, he was acquired in the offseason, and a lot of comparisons to he and Brandon Moss. Moss playing the infield, the outfield, and a very strong hitter. Lambeau had a good spring. What a way to impress a lot of the A's fans this afternoon if he could come through with 2 outs. Don Cooper's knee must be feeling better. He was jogging to the mound and back.
30 seconds. So those are the numbers last year for Lambeau when he went 1 for 25. Hitting for Simeon. His first pitch drops low.
Lambeau is strong, and when he makes contact, he drives the ball, and it sounds great coming off his bat.
I'd take a flare here.
Take anything. Playing him to shift. I was playing the shift, playing him to pull.
Could not pull the trigger. Another off-speed pitch, and it's on the inside corner for a strike.
That's where Alvarez is so good against lefties. He'll start it inside. It's like a screwball almost the way it comes back, the 2-seamer. Watch it come back. Lambeau starts, holds up, and it's a pitch you don't want to give with 2 strikes because it's a tough one to follow. Try to make any kind of contact.
Abreu smothers it, steps on the bag, side, retired. So the A's had a couple of runners on, but could not score. 8th inning coming up.
In 1981, on April the 16th, when the A's take on the world champion Royals, 15,000 fans will receive a Stephen Vogt 1981 replica jersey. It's presented by Cache Creek Casino Resort. Throwback to the Billy Ball era, the jersey features Oakland on the front and Vogt on the back, while paying homage to one of the greatest periods in franchise history. Visit athletics.com/tickets today. Difference maker right there.
Yep.
Big man. hoping he can get out of town with no RBI.
And a new pitcher when it's time for a change. Think Speedy Oil Change and Auto Service, your oil change tune-up and smog experts. Mark Sepchinski comes in, lefty on lefty. Second appearance this year for Sepchinski. He also pitched on Tuesday night. Some defensive changes for the Athletics. Jed Lowry goes from DH to shortstop. Mark Hanna stays in the game at first base. That one is lined to left, and that's a hit. Roko's got to cut it off. He does. Eaton's going to try for two. The throw is not in time. And a head first slide for Eaton. He's got a double.
Well, the speed of Eaton and the combination of the ball slicing away from Coco Crisp. He was thinking two all the way, and what a series he has had, and continues with this opposite field double. Slapped it and out of the box, thinking not just a single, but a double. And Coco had to backhand it, try to stop his momentum, get the ball back in, and it was enough offline that Eaton, who did not hesitate around the bag, gets in safely at second.
So that's the 8th hit in this series for Eaton, and here's Melky Cabrera. We should also note, Ray, that the DH is now gone for the A's. And the DH spot is the 8th spot in the batting order. And we say that simply because Lowry was the DH. Lowry shifts out of the DH spot and plays shortstop. And once you move your DH out of the DH spot, you lose him. So
Chris Davis and Josh Fegley, the position players, so you start looking at possible pinch hitters and the pitcher spot.
Yep.
But you also don't want to run out of players. You have the versatility in Coghlan, so that's dealing with a catcher and an outfielder.
Good outing for Fernando Rodriguez, an inning and 2/3. Couple of strikeouts, no hits, no runs. So meeting at the mound. Melky Cabrera has had a good game. He's lined out, singled, and walked, and he has scored a run. He scored on a Braves home run. Way outside to Cabrera. So with tight game, late innings, where it seems like an extra run would mean a lot. See how Melky Cabrera approaches this at bat with Eaton at second and nobody out. He handles the bat pretty well. Not going to be able to get him over. Valencia takes care of him.
There's a big difference in switch hitters in the right and left side, and Melky more of, or at least a better left-hand hitter, it seems. So Sepchinski faces two batters, and now the bullpen again.
So with a couple of power hitting right-handed hitters coming up, Dull is in.
Deals in town with Rapid Deal Days presented by Bartable. $5 tickets are available for select home games with this one-of-a-kind promotion. Visit athletics.com/Bart today because these tickets won't last. They will not last,
No.
Joe. I think Joe's going to buy some because it's Bartable.
So Ryan Dull to face Jose Abreu with Eaton at second base. Good challenge for Ryan Dull. Slider for strike. Dull pitched on Monday night. He threw 24 pitches. Came back on Tuesday, but only threw 3 pitches that night. So did not get in the game yesterday. Abreu with a 2-run homer in the 6th. The difference in the game. Six total hits.
All-star home run champion, Jack and Mount like crazy. I was jumping up and down saying, my God, this guy is
Swing and a miss. There's that good Dull breaking ball.
Now you get Abreu up until 2 strikes to do this. He'll swing at sliders out of the strike zone. Pitch that Robin Ventura said when he can recognize the low slider fastball and lay off, he's going to be even better. He got a higher fastball from Kendall Graveman. And now you can expand the strike zone a little bit with the 2 strikes.
Nice block by Vogt. This is the home run by Abreu. He went to right field.
And look at the location, it was straight. And that's what Kendall Graveman unfortunately tried to get the sink and try to get another ground ball, but left the ball up a little bit, or at least straighten it out. And just tip your hat to the big man going opposite field.
He also reached on an error that was in the 1st inning and grounded to short. High pop-up, headed for the seats. The count remains 1-2. So Ray mentioned Eric Surkamp tomorrow in Seattle. He will be opposed by Tawan Walker, fine young right-hander for Seattle. We'll have that game for you right here in Comcast Sportsnet California. First pitch 7:10. Little outside, 2-2. On Saturday night, it'll be Rich Hill and Nathan Carnes. Nathan Carnes is the Mariners' 5th starter, came over in a trade from the Rays. And then on Sunday, Chris Bassett and Felix Hernandez. So that's your pitching matchups for the weekend in Seattle. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. So big out there for out number 2 here in the 8th.
Well, the great thing about Ryan Dull, it's almost like it's max effort every pitch. We saw Chris Sale on Monday night as a starter, kind of the same way. But if you're a hitter and you see this effort from a pitcher, and then that kind of a location on a hard slider, that is a great pitch, especially against a great hitter. There and pushes off and just throws everything behind it. Falls a little bit towards the first base side. Not even bigger out in Frazier.
First pitch breaking ball strike to Frazier. We'll see how that first pitch breaking ball strike sets up the rest of the at bat against a very good hitter in Todd Frazier. Frazier is 2 for 15 in the series. And of course, a huge hit in this series. 3-run homer.
Hey, Stephen Vogt took one in the mask, huh? How about that?
It's been a while.
It's been quiet today. So Stephen Vogt with a big swing by Frazier. Watch the mask. Just above the glove and slipped just off the side. Not a direct hit, but still easy for us to say up here that didn't jolt the neck.
Another First slider, rolled foul. So Dull well ahead in the count.
Get up there, you know what to do. You're trying to sneak a look early.
Frazier today has grounded out 3 times. Once to first and twice to third. Off of Vogt, he has to scramble after it. You got to be careful with Eaton because of the great speed. He stops at third.
That's why Stephen Vogt hustled as much as he did to go get the ball. A slider in the dirt, or at least down. Stephen Vogt did it hit? It might have hit the umpire's shin guard. It looked like it went between his legs. And it is a wild pitch. Having more of the wild pitch for righty instead of the one that Navarro missed.
Nice block there, saves a run.
Every catcher knows that a pitcher wants to keep the hard slider down, and at times it's going to be in the dirt, and that's why Stephen Vogt just had one get by him. But this one with the runner at third, smothered it. Ball bounced up, hit him softly in the chest protector.
In the air, foul. Frazier, 35 home runs last year in what is a very hitter-friendly park. He's got power. I don't think moving to a different ballpark will change things too much.
But he hit a pretty good curveball from Chris Bassett, one-handed for a home run the other night.
Strike 3 called, a fastball on the outside corner. What a job by Dull. He comes in and strikes out Abreu and Frazier. 2-0 White Sox as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. This game summary brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. 2-4-1 for the White Sox, 0-2-2 for the Athletics. So more pitching in this series. We've seen quite a bit of it in this opening series between these two teams. Latos just 1 hit through 6 innings. So Latos was good. Graveman was good, but just the 1 mistake. 2-run homer by Jose Abreu. That's it for the scoring. So when it's time for change, think Speedy Oil Change and Auto Service. Your oil change, tune-up, and smog experts as Nate Jones comes in. His 3rd appearance in this series.
He is Ventura's setup man and hung a breaking ball to Alonso Tuesday night that allowed him to hit a 2-run single to tie the game. Ended up getting the win with Rollins' home run.
Yeah, you got a blown save and a win.
Yep. All in the matter of an inning. More upset about the blown save, though, giving up the 2 runs. That's what relievers, they don't care about wins. Right now, the A's care about trying to get on the board. And to have the leadoff double top of the inning by Eaton with the speed, and he's stranded. Good opportunity. Still a 2-run game. I think it's going to be a 1-run game. First 3 have been.
Of course. 2-0 to Coco Crisp, make it 3-0. A little high, and it's a 4-pitch walk. So the A's get their leadoff man on in the 8th.
Here's the biggest question for you, Cap. You got Billy Burns, who's very aggressive. A 4-pitch walk to Coco Crisp. Does he take a strike? I mean, down 2. I mean, it's tough to take the aggressiveness away from a hitter, but you've got to be selective. I mean, if he being Jones all over the place, a little wild as he did with the 4 pitches to Coco. This is where we talked earlier, 9th and first place hitter. You got 2 leadoff hitters.
Looks like he was taken all the way, and that's a strike. The numbers for Billy Burns last year: best batting average among American League rookies, most hits, second most runs, and first in stolen bases. But you're going up against the young man who won the American League Rookie of the Year, Carlos Correa. Good luck. Is he going to be a star?
Oh, I think he already is, and he's what, 21? Plus he's an actor. He's doing some movie stuff. He can do anything he wants to do.
Speaking of the Astros, they are tied with the Yankees, 5-5 in the 6th inning at Yankee Stadium. Jed Lowry in the on-deck circle. Slapped foul. Eaton shallow in center and shifted toward left center. Schuck is very shallow in left field, which...
And Saladino, the shortstop, playing like infield's halfway because of the speed of Billy Burns. Same for Brett Laurie. So infielder's kind of in, so it opens up a lot of holes, especially if the ball's hit hard on the ground.
In the air to right field, shallow toward the line. Garcia on the move, and he gets there to make the catch. Garcia was slid over toward right center some, so that made a much longer run for him, but he was able to get there.
And Billy just trying to protect, but anytime with his speed, and we say it often, speed hitter hits the ball in the air, that's not good. You want line drives and ground balls to utilize the speed, especially with the infield having to cheat in as much as they do.
So here's Lowry, who is 0 for 3. Pop out to second, fly ball to left, fly ball to right. Good swing there, and it's foul back. So Lowry to start this year is 3 for 14, but he does have 5 RBIs, as we mentioned in the beginning of our show. 96 miles an hour for Nate Jones.
It's amazing how the 4-pitch walk to Coco Crisp got the bullpen up quickly. Now Jones is a setup guy. Figured that he's going to be out there, but as soon as he walked Coco, the bullpen got busy, lefty and a righty. Just not taking any chances.
Foul tip, and it's 1-2. Dan Jennings, a lefty, and Putnam, a right-hander. In the White Sox bullpen, and the A's bullpen, it's Doolittle and Hendricks. So both managers doing a lot of managing with a very tight game lately. 12,000 in the building today, so a small crowd on a beautiful day. Got him swinging at a pitch in the dirt. So lots of fastballs, but not that time. Took something off. Lowry's 0 for 4. That's a nasty pitch.
Hard slider down, back foot, and the change of speed really affected him. Here comes the spin, the rotation, and the location out of the strike zone. But for a hitter to see it like that, figured it's got to be a strike.
Here's Reddick. Ray, is what Jones does with his throwing arm before he releases, where he kind of holds it out and it looks like he holds it there for a split second. You do not see a lot of guys do that. It has to be a little distracting for him.
It is distracting, and that's why I always say if you're an on-deck hitter in the dugout and you watch the pitcher, because you're not going to really see it full until you get at the plate, but at least you have an idea, and you don't want to start your swing when he gets to it right there when he pauses.
That one hit well to left, but the White Sox got a guy there. J.B. Shuck. Side retired. So nothing for the A's after the leadoff walk. 9th inning coming up.
Bar live with the MLB.com at bat. Stay up to the moment, any moment, with game day, live game video highlights, StatCast news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. And watch and watch and watch, and anywhere you go.
Number 26, Abisail Garcia.
2-0 White Sox lead. It is the 9th inning when it's time for a change. Think Speedy Oil Change and Auto Service. Your oil change tune-up and smog expert. So it's Liam Hendriks, the hard-throwing right-hander, comes in. Hendriks pitched on Tuesday night, 2 2/3 innings, all zeros. And he threw 30 pitches. He threw very well. Faces Garcia, Shuck, and Lowry. Robertson, the closer, is up, tossing lightly in the White Sox bullpen. It's been Graveman, Rodriguez, Sapchinski, Dahl, and now Hendriks. Last year, the bullpen problems well chronicled. So he's did not mess around. Changes needed to be made, and they made them. They really got 4 veteran pitchers. Try and change the face of the bullpen and then throw Doolittle healthy out there, so you almost have 5 different relievers from last year. Axford's been around a long time, as has Madsen, Sapchinski, situational lefty. Hendricks went to the bullpen last year and was really good.
And I think it showed last night with Doolittle unavailable and Axford pitched the 8th, Madsen the 9th, so you had a couple of closers closing out a game, one in the 8th, one in the 9th. And Doolittle with the day off, he'd love to get in the game today. Matter of fact, he was warming up maybe to come in a tie or the lead, obviously, but Hendricks trying to keep it at the 2-0 deficit.
Pinch runner is Austin Jackson, running for Garcia, who had base hit. Valencia in on the grass with Shuck the hitter. Not close. Laurie in the on-deck circle. So Austin Jackson, the pinch runner, he will obviously stay in the game. He's a pretty good center fielder, if we remember correctly.
And move Eaton over to right and Jackson in the center. And Garcia. Give Jackson the day off at least for 7-8 innings. Put him in the outfield. He's a little bit shaky on the ball down the right field line. So DHing the first 3 games and then playing this afternoon right field.
Jackson runs well. Fouled straight back. Shuck showing no signs of bunting. We've taken a long look. Joe McCune down there at third base, coach.
Joe Boston at first. You don't want to be looking at 2 strikes.
Nice block by Stephen Vogt.
Panic sets in when you know you have a base stealer, good base runner at first base speed, and you watch how Stephen Vogt, once he blocks the ball, watch how he reacts to get on top of the ball quickly, gets rid of the mask, and goes after the ball in the event Jackson decides to go and not taking any chances, aggressively going after the ball.
Setting up inside. Fastball runs off the plate. So the count 3-2. Would imagine Jackson will probably be taken off. We'll see.
Be surprised if he doesn't. Would you like to be a first baseman and have that ball come over about 95?
Yeah, he's a max effort guy too every pitch, including the throws to first base. Good lead for Jackson, and he runs. Swing and a miss. Throw to second base, and it's not quite in time as he slides in. The throw was in the dirt, but looked like Lowry maybe just a shade late getting there. Whether that would have made a difference or not, I'm not sure.
Vogt got rid of the ball quickly. He threw to second, even though Lowry was holding his position. But the one thing that Hendricks had a little bit of a leg kick. And you figure he's going to be going. Maybe he wanted to make sure he got the hitter out. But that little extra time maybe helped Austin Jackson get the jump and be able to get into safely to second. But from a catcher standpoint, you throw it, even if nobody's there, you figure somebody's responsibility is to be at second. Happened to be Jed Lowry, and he got there. Some guys try to hold the position as long as possible, especially on a 3-2.
Here's Laurie, who has struck out twice and popped out to short. So the opening series for Laurie has him 2 for 14.
That's the only stolen base in the series so far.
Yeah, that's the first one. Yeah.
See, there's the slide step. He doesn't lose much on the slide step. So you're saying 1 stolen base in 4 games for both teams, that Ricky's record's pretty safe?
Yeah, he's going to be okay. Since Ricky used to get 2 per at bat.
That's right. You walk him, he steals second, steals third.
And now 3-0. Wait, Coco's. Wait, oh.
Now, unless that gentleman with Henderson on his back leans forward, it could be Dave.
Could be Dave, yep.
I'm sure they will have a few moments of silence tomorrow night in Seattle, where Dave Henderson worked for the Mariners and lived in the Seattle area.
In their first drive. Well, in Seattle, there's Ken Griffey Jr. going into the Hall of Fame this year, and he's going in as a Mariner. And that's going to be a kind of a year-long celebration for Seattle, and I'm sure he can be part of the pregame festivities.
He's going to throw out the ceremonial first pitch tomorrow night.
So it'll be fun. So your own home opener is always fun, but it's also fun to be at other people's home opener, and not always, but you sometimes get a visiting team's home opener on your schedule, and you will get the Mariners tomorrow night. Reddick on the move. He's going to have to hurry, and it falls fair. And Jackson had to wait to make sure it did fall. He goes to third. It stops there. Nothing Reddick could do. He got a good jump. He just could not get there.
And actually, it's a ball out of the strike zone.
Way out of the strike zone.
And you're thinking, well, you're going to get a quick out with Brett Lowry going out of the strike zone, but he lofted it and hit it softly enough. Reddick couldn't get to it. I guess the good news, able to keep Austin Jackson at third.
So we wanted to say Brett Lawrie fell, but that did not look like a fall. It looked like a scramble.
Looked like a crawl. Scrambling crawl.
Army crawl, scramble.
That's right. That's what I was thinking.
Here's Navarro, and a little bit high. Valencia is playing in at third. Or Navarro, earlier in the game, he did make an attempt to bunt. Hayes cannot afford to give up any more. And that one's drilled to right, and that is not good, folks. Off the scoreboard, a one-run scores. Navarro's just going to get a long single, but it was a loud single, and it knocks in a run, so it's 3-0 White Sox.
I think Navarro thought he had a home run. I did too.
Yep.
But I mean, just it was hit so hard. Not that he runs that fast anyway. It was hit so hard. But he crushed it, and it sounded great coming off the bat, and that's after the first pitch missed, and he got a fastball. He looked for it, got it, listened to it, and you think it's 5-0. Fortunately, it had some sink on it and ended up being off of the scoreboard.
How close? You're 5 feet.
Yeah. So still a double play situation that the A's are hopeful of getting.
I think you're right, though. I think topspin
Yeah.
saved the A's there. So again, first and third, a run in. And here's Saladino. So 3 hits in the inning off Liam Hendricks. Adam Eaton is the on-deck hitter. Foul. Straight back.
I think Saladino was a safety squeeze. I don't know that he came down the line. The runner at third did not come down like a squeeze, and maybe he was just trying to push it for a safety.
1 for 3 for Saladino. Lowry at third, Navarro at first. Again, this time pulls the bat back, so it's 1-1. Both corner infielders charging. It's not that much fun for a corner infielder now because now you're not sure what he's going to do. Good swing there, fouled straight back. 94 miles an hour on that fastball from Hendricks. Robertson still throwing for the White Sox. Putnam also up. A shot into right field and a base hit. Coming in to score is Laurie. It's 4-0. And Saladino just reached out on a fastball that was out away from him. And with Canna playing in, shot it right past him.
That's very similar to Brett Laurie, who also swung at a pitch out of the strike zone. See how far this one might be away from Saladino. You know, Cap, you said earlier, and good point about if you look at a certain area and you get the pitch, you can expand your strike zone. And when Frazier earlier got a fastball in and broke his bat, he might have been looking away, but Saladino, like Brett Laurie, looking away with Hendricks and able to get the base hits to right field.
And a lot of fastballs.
A lot of fastballs.
So 2 runs on 4 hits here in the 9th inning, and the White Sox get a couple of big insurance runs. Still only 1 out for Adam Eaton. Eaton is 1 for 4. He doubled leading off the 8th inning, but he never moved past second base. Eaton has had a terrific series. That one in first strike. He's 8 for 15 in the series. It's a good start for Adam Eaton. He was with the Diamondbacks, then traded to the White Sox. Diamondbacks had Eaton and A.J. Pollock for center field, and they felt like, well, get something for one of them. They kept Pollock, which is a good move. Went to the White Sox. So you say, well, who did he get? Who did the Diamondbacks get? Which is a fair question. Obtained from the Arizona Diamondbacks in exchange for Hector Santiago, the pitcher. Line drive and a base hit to left field. Everybody moves up and stops. So Liam Hendricks is not fooling anybody. Five singles in this inning.
And staying back, opposite field single hit so hard that the runner from second could not score, but it does load the bases. And A's still a ground ball away from a double play and getting out of the inning. But they've not been any ground balls, they've been line drives. Maybe Hendricks should have come in with bases loaded in his first appearance and got the double play and then retired 6 in a row after that.
And there's another line drive hit. Fastball right out over the plate. Crowd comes in to score. 5-0, bases still loaded. I just think, Ray, that the White Sox are going up there and they're thinking about getting one pitch, and that's a fastball.
And looking away. Everything's been away, and they've been going away. Last 2 hits to left field. You have 2 hits to right field. You have the ball that Garcia started with the base hit up the middle.
So Melky Cabrera with 2 hits today. He scored a run, knocked in a run. He's also walked, so a good ball game for Cabrera. And now Jose Abreu steps up.
White Sox with 4 hits in 8 innings. They have 5 in this 9th.
There's a curve that is in first strike. Saladino at third. Eaton at second, Cabrera at first. Abreu, a 2-run homer in the 6th, his first of the year. Fastball a little in, and Abreu fouls it off. So really the first rough performance by an A's reliever this year. Stephen Vogt on the block. So 5-0, the White Sox lead. Hendricks needs a hard hit ball right at an infielder, and he needs it in the worst way. The bullpen is quiet. He's thrown 29 pitches. There's a shot toward Reddick in right field. Reddick hustles back. He gets there to make the catch. Saladino tags. He'll score easily. So, a long sacrifice fly for Jose Abreu. He gets his third RBI of the game, and it's now 6-0 Chicago.
Almost had a chance to double off the runner at first. Cabrera was almost at second base thinking that ball was going to be in the gap, but it kept slicing back a little bit to Reddick. Reddick, of course, got a great jump on it, as he always does. Got it back in and threw it to Coghlan at second, and Cabrera hustling back to first.
So 9th man to bat in this inning, and it's Todd Frazier, who is 0 for 4. So the A's have controlled Frazier today. That's Zach Putnam, who stays up now with the score 6-0. Robertson sat down. He was throwing at the beginning of this half inning, but it was 2-0. That one in for a strike.
Robertson got saves in the first 2 games, did not pitch last night with the A's winning, but last year the A's had success against Robertson. Is hoping today they could be a 2-0 in the 9th, and maybe that magic would come out again. But not with this add-on by the White Sox.
High fastball 1-2. That may be what you need to do with that fastball, is elevate it a little bit, because he throws hard. "34 pitches for Hendricks out of the bullpen. So maybe not the ideal thing you want to have happen with a reliever throwing that many pitches. Coghlan has it. He'll go to first. Side retired, but major damage done. The White Sox score 4 times. It's 6-0 as we go to the bottom of the 9th.
game. Kendall Graveman, outstanding for 5 innings. Had the sinker working. He had total for the day 10 ground ball outs. He had 4 broken bats in the innings that he pitched. He did great and just had everything working for 5 innings to remember. But here is the Honda player of the game because of what he did in the 6th inning. 1 walk that Graveman gave up and a home run that he gave up to right field. The first ribbies for Abreu, 2-0. And after that, after getting the next out, Graveman left, but Jose Abreu had kept him quiet for 3 games. Broke 2 bats in his first 2 at-bats, but then a fastball down the middle to right field. And I guess if he gets hot, that could be the last day. The bottom line for the A's, just 2 hits. They made a couple of errors, but the White Sox with their 10 hits, and they have 6 runs.
First appearance of the year for Zach Putnam. 28-year-old right-hander. His 3rd season pitching out of the White Sox bullpen. 49 games last year, 3 wins, and the ERA a shade over 4. So his first action here in 2016. Valencia hits it hard, fair. It's off the glove of Frazier. So maybe the start of something big. Or as my partner Ray Fosse likes to say, what a story it would be.
That's right. Might as well start in the 4th game of the season. Putnam in because he was up with Robertson. If the A's had not given up the additional 4, Robertson would have been in. So Putnam will try to get the A's out, but Robertson would get up if it becomes a save situation. A good way to start. A hard hit ball. I hope so.
It better be.
That's right.
Stephen Vogt had a base hit in the 7th inning. Speed pitch catches the outside corner. And make sure you join us tomorrow night from Seattle. Juan Walker and Eric Surkamp, the pitching matchup. A's pregame live at 6:30.
Come on, Vogt. Get it right, baby.
The home opener for the Mariners. So Safeco Field will be jumping. We like that ballpark. Nice place.
Well, the Mariners go into their home opener having won 2 of 3 against the Rangers. Chris Davis and Josh Phegley, the 2 position players remaining, and Davis getting a helmet. Putnam just a 2 and 4 seam, got a good sinker. He just showed it, and also throw a cut fastball and a split. There's certain guys are called go-to guys in the bullpen, and Matt Albers, Nate Jones, Patricia.
Those outs in the 6th and 7th inning are usually huge. Well, whatever pitch that is, it's a good one. And Vogt was way out in front. So Stephen Vogt strikes out. He's 1 for 4 now today. Little split change, huh?
Yeah, exactly. You can usually see the grip, and that's what it was coming out of his hand. See, sometimes, and I've always believed that a reliever comes in, he gives up a hit on the first pitch, he says, that's enough. Let's go back to pitching the game. And really they should, because a big lead at times will kind of encourage a pitcher just saying, let's just get it over with. Throw fastballs, and that's when they get hit. But relievers, because they pitch so infrequently, ERAs are important for them.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the score is.
Yeah. And now, by the way, there's a runner at second. Let's just go with this.
Valencia took off for second base.
He's not going to have these predetermined runner at second signs not to talk about him after a runner gets there in the 9th inning.
Coghlan is 1 for 3, a single and 2 strikeouts. And there's a base hit left field. And Valencia is going to be waved home. He'll make it without a throw, and the A's are on the board. So Coghlan, a couple of hits today, both times going the other way.
High fastball, perfect to hit exactly the way Coghlan went to the opposite field. Stayed back, ball stayed up, and he shot it to right field. So good job. Getting a couple of hits today, both to left field.
Coughlin, that's his first RBI.
Remember, that's the pitcher in the 8th spot, and that's why Chris Davis is out as a pinch hitter.
Canna rolls at foul. Good call. Ed Lowry opened the game as the designated hitter, but later on in the game moved to shortstop. So that 8th spot, so we'll call it the pitcher spot now. Canna hit in the 7th inning. He hit a pop-up second base, and that was a big point in the game too, Ray, in the 7th inning. In fact, that may have been the biggest point in the game. Coughlin will go to second because the A's had first and third and nobody out and couldn't get anything going.
And it's just 4 games, but if there's one thing that the A's, the situational hitting, Darren Bush just talks, as all hitting coach talk about, infield back, runner at third in less than 2 outs. It's a gift run, and Canna does a good job of going opposite field. He just stayed inside the ball, but popped it up shallow second base, and that's why he couldn't drive in a run.
It's crazy.
And there's that changeup again. It just kind of floats in there and then dives down. So 1-2 to Canna. Kind of a funky pitch.
Yeah, and it kind of starts to the lefties at them, but to the righties, it's the same as far as a location, but the fact that it takes a lot off the pitch fools the hitter.
So Canna behind in the count with Coughlin, the runner, at second. Just got a piece of it. White Sox will head home for their home opener tomorrow against the Cleveland Indians. Division matchup.
So they're saying, well, we've enjoyed the 4 days in California, beautiful weather. And
how could you know? Canna chased it again, and he strikes out. So Zach Putnam gets his second strikeout.
Yeah, a little bit harder split there, and it just, easy to say, because you say, how could a hitter swing a pitch that far, that much out of the strike zone? But you're standing at the plate, and you're thinking one pitch or just anything fast, and it comes in and ends up in the dirt. You can't really fault a hitter in a lot of cases.
So Chris Davis will pinch hit just to try to keep this game going. That same pitch. This one Davis lays off and it's low. Chris Davis 2 for 11 to start the season. One of his 2 hits is a double. Trying to get Coughlin home, and a split change, and Davis swings over top.
Cap, it's not often that you hear Mike Selleck announce the stats for Hendrick, the pitcher, because he usually waits till the inning's over or a new pitcher comes in, but since he's being pinched hit 4, he's out of the game.
That's true.
So Davis, here we are on the 4th game of the season. We got Mike Selleck having to play National League rules.
That's a good call. That one's hit to right, and that's hit well. Eaton's near the wall, just enough room, and he makes the catch, and that is the ball game. He's going to run in the 9th, but come up well short. So the White Sox take 2, make it 3 out of 4 from the Athletics in this season opening series, and they do it behind Matt Latos today, and a 4-run 9th inning. Final score today: the Chicago White Sox 6 and the Oakland A's 1. Well, you've been watching Oakland A's baseball on CSN California, part of the NBC Sports Group. Don't go away. A's postgame live with Henry Wolford and Shooty Babbitt starts right now. Once again, final score: White Sox beat the Athletics 6-1.